Alright. Lords of the Fallen. I've played enough of this game, I think I can give my thoughts on it. I have gotten 2 out of 3 endings, and I'm currently working towards the 3rd. And for some reason my controller's not working. Yay! Oh, there we go. There we go. Alright. So my thoughts on Lords of the Fallen. Well, I've beaten the game twice. My level is 2,586, and no, I did not grind the vigor to get all the way up there. There is currently a bug that anytime you go into a co-op player's game and go to the Skyrest Bridge area, the NPC that allows you to respec your character, if you do it while someone in someone else's game, the respec does not get rid of any points that you already have put in. It just is additive. So any points you spend on that respec screen just get added to the stuff you already have, and then it doubles, and then it doubles. So I have respec 4 times, I believe, in someone else's world. And that's why my stats are ridiculous. After the hard caps, damage numbers don't go up anymore. It's just resistances. As you can see, my resistances are ridiculous. And I got invaded. That's fine, though. I guess we should talk about the multiplayer. It has, since launch, gotten much better. And the multiplayer is actually not that disruptive because of how it feels incorporated. I believe the invader deals a lot more damage than the host does to them. But when you... I think I can only do like 50 damage max, even though my weapon does 712. These are daggers, by the way. Yeah. So we'll see how this goes, but multiplayer is very quick. And he wants to turtle bind his shield, that's fine. Yeah, but look how little damage I do to this guy. And how much I take. I notice that I'm like super high level. So that's interesting. It's the best way to put that. Oop. I think that's the most damage I can probably do to another player. I mean, since how he deals so much damage to me, it's really not that disruptive in my opinion if I die. And the only thing that is kind of frustrating about multiplayer isn't the gameplay itself at all, for me anyway. It's the rewards that you get are pitiful on every other server but Australia. Right now, you get 9 of the currencies. And let's talk about them. You get the severed hands up there in the top left, the hand icon. I got 34. I got 1,028 eyeballs for doing vengeance lanterns. The next one's the co-op and killing bosses, the coins, and then the umbral scourings you get from killing bosses during co-op or in your own world. And there are a couple other ways to get them, but it's not really worth mentioning. Yeah. But the multiplayer stuff is really, really grindy unless you follow the instructions on the Discord. You do not need to purchase a VPN subscription at all. On the Discord, there is a way to just change your DNS settings. No VPN required. Just change your DNS settings to use a server in Australia, and it works on consoles. So take a look at the specific information in the Discord. And that's how I farmed up 1,028 of these eyeballs. It bothers me that this menu to purchase more of these scourings doesn't have a how much do you want to purchase thing there. Same for these, but it's fine. As you see, I own everything in this menu just because I played like, I don't know, I played like 3 hours, 4 hours tops in Australia and just maxed out all the shrines. It does not take long in Australia. You get so much multiplayer currency, whereas everywhere else you get like 9 of anything. That's not a multiplayer shrine. Like I said, I've gotten the Umbral ending, and I can prove that through one of the weapons. Here it is, here somewhere. Oh, I passed it. I have Ilian the Starved, and I also have Ilian the Starved set, so that proves I've done at least one ending. And that's one of the arguably harder endings to get, is the Umbral ending, because of just how intricate that ending can be. The easiest one to get is the one I'm actually going for now, the last ending, which is Radiance ending. You just gotta do what they ask you and cleanse the beacons. So that's what I'm working towards now. It's kind of a slog. As far as this game being a slog, this game is kind of a slog to get through, and I know a lot of people are saying that the Umbral, transitioning into the Umbral and doing stuff in the Umbral, is a really interesting and unique idea, having a second world over layered over the original world. And I think that that was a good idea until I started playing through it. And being in the Umbral, really, it's just kind of a chore to have 2 separate worlds that you have to progress through the Umbral, and then you have to mow through zombie enemies in order to progress. Sometimes they're guaranteed spawns of enemies. They don't spawn randomly. They're pre-placed in sets. There are Reaper enemies in pre-placed locations. It's kind of boring. So it's just kind of a boring slog whenever you go into the Umbral. It's supposed to be tension inducing, I think, is what they like. You have to transition out of the Umbral as quickly as possible. But the Umbral, in my opinion, is mostly a slog, and I don't overall like how it's implemented. When you have to interact with platforms to move it with the soul, with the soul flay, you have to interact with so many things in soul flay. It's not just one different type of platform. There are at least 2 platforms: a rotating one that moves back and forth. Oh, there's a third, the spine type one that moves out. So there's 3 different things you have to soul flay, and all of them are just a chore. It's extra buttons. They block progression until you deal with them. It's annoying. That's what it is. If they were like, just run up to a thing and press X or press A, depending on which controller you're using. I'm using a PlayStation 4 controller, so it's X for me, but it shows Xbox controls because that's just how it is. But yeah. Just, if it was just like a simple push one button to do anything that Soulflay had to deal with while in Umbral, to advance the story, to open up the flesh loot boxes, like, just make it all one button, make it really easy, and maybe really consider that you don't need to have everything behind like a platforming area, like having 1 or 2 platforming areas where they're kind of a puzzle. Puzzles are good, in optional areas. There's actually one it's an okay enough puzzle to unlock these doors over here. You come through these doors on the other side, and to actually get the pyromancy, like the accused prisoners storyline and all that, you got to do a little puzzle and get a little you got to get a catalyst and give it to her. That puzzle's fine. It's short, it's simple. Again, I wish it was just one button push to do any of the Soulflay stuff. But yeah, the Umbral, big waste of time, I think, mostly, which is unfortunate. It's a good idea. I think it was just implemented to be very tedious. Moving on. Um, every weapon you pick up, every build you can think of is viable at some point. There are stronger builds in this game. There are weaker builds. It's all viable. You can do whatever you want. You can even go with no weapons. And you have a little fun drop kick. You have a fun move set, so that's cool. So like everything you can think of is viable, or every weapon you pick up is viable. You can use them all. There are some that are exceptionally strong. Like for right now, since they pushed out the update that added or that forced boss weapons to go to +10 instead of +5, and we had to re-level our weapons, you can see that certain weapons like Pieda's sword, the Radiant sword that everybody runs around with, the lightsabers, has been affected heavily and can only max out at 411 damage, even though these are short swords, not daggers. And then you can see that these +10 daggers, even though I have absurd stats and should be a really strong dagger, doesn't even get to 300 damage on those. So I don't know if that's just because these are kind of mid-game weapons anyway. Then I have a +10 sword as well, or a dagger that's like a mid-game weapon too. That's kind of interesting, but it's like, why would you not use what's best in slot? These attack power numbers are accurate. Just remember that all enemies in the game have resistances to damage and different damage types. So if you're not hitting for exactly what that attack power says, it doesn't mean the attack power listing there is wrong. It's just they have resistances to the damage you're dealing to them. And almost every weapon, I believe, without exception, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but every weapon won't hit as hard as it's listed just because of how easy it is to get resistances up. And if I take off all of my armor, look at defensive stats. As you level up, you get defensive stats. And like this is an extreme example, being level 2000. But if I look at my character's resistances, even with no armor and no weapons, and not even a catalyst, like I'll take all the rings off too, because why not? Just completely naked character, resistances are through the roof. So I kind of like that because that makes it so you can max out on the fashion. Fashion Souls is a thing in Souls-like games, and I gotta say the fashion is here in this game. All the drip looks good for the most part. There are some that, I mean, there's enough good-looking armor sets and like silly combinations you could have that yeah, you can pick whoever you want to pick and choose your poison, I suppose, including the multiplayer armors, which are locked behind an insane grind unless you for some reason go to Australia and just get it within like an hour and a half of, honestly, pretty easy. It's pretty easy to get into co-op if you switch your VPN to Australia, because that's what everyone's doing right now. So if you're watching this video and you're wondering how to get all the multiplayer armors and all the tinks, all the colors and all that, just VPN to Australia. Everybody's doing it right now, and just get it unlocked and get it out of the way. I even have the pumpkin skin mask. This is one of the only items in the game that gives you more item discovery rate through an armor. And I believe that's the only armor piece that actually affects stats at all. I do have a minor gripe here that I'd like to go over. I think the inventory is organized by weight, which I think is perfectly fine. And it's actually nice that it's like that, because the heavier an armor piece is, generally the more defensive it is, with exceptions, of course. I think that's great. I do have a minor gripe that the multiplayer armor, the Skull and Bones armor, are not all lightest in slot. The arms and the legs are the lightest armor. which is great. Well, the lightest armor I've found. I'm not sure if I've found all the armor, but the chest piece isn't. This is the lightest chest. And then the crown of flowers is the lightest headpiece. It's like, come on, man. Like, this is kind of inconsistent game design at best, is the way to say that. Like, just make them. Just make one of the pay for armors that's blocked behind a stupid pay or a stupid grind wall uniform in its lightness, because it or like something, man. help somebody out when you do this. Um, one of the upsides, I think one of the major pluses to this game is the new game plussing. This is new game plus 0, my third run. So I think that was a great addition because of how tedious it is to just go through the umbral and run around and have to progress that way. I have to progress through the game. There's so many mob trash enemies that cannot be one shot with most weapons all throughout the late game. There's really no point to go into New Game Plus 1 or 2. Like, yes, additional challenges, figuring out bosses' movesets, and I suppose making them a little more spongier so you can actually see their full moveset could be a reason why you go through this game multiple times and progress through New Game Plus 1, plus 2. But once you realize you have to go through the game 4 times at minimum, the minimum amount of times you need to go through the game in a New Game Plus fashion to get all of the achievements, I think is 4. But I've already been through the game 2 times. This will be my 3rd time for the ending, and I've already locked myself out of 3 more NPC quest lines because I killed the Light Reaper boss right at the start, and that sucks. Because now I have 3 NPC quests that I can't do because they all require being summoned to the Light Reaper. So I just took off both weapons. I'm just hitting with my fists. I'm actually one-hit killing mobs with my fists, and it's kind of funny. Maybe fists are the best at stupid high levels. 1000 damage. I want to try this attack. This is hilarious. The game has its moments, but for the most part, it's mostly a slog filled with trash enemies. And I think that was part of the game design. And yeah, I think that's all I really have to say about that. I liked the game. I have specifically a crashing problem. The game crashes no matter what. No matter what patch happens, whatever they're doing has never helped my crashing situation. And you may have noticed because this, the graphics on this don't look so great. I have everything set to low, and that's not because my computer can't run it at high or ultra or whatever. It's because the boss fight in the Tower of Penance, specifically, the frames varied between 5 frames to 30 frames, basically making that fight unplayable. So I had to lower it all the way down, and now whenever I co-op or whatever and I get summoned into that fight, I would have to change my graphic settings over and over again. I don't want to do that, so I'm just leaving it all on low, and for whatever reason that makes the game playable. So I'm going for playability, and that's why my settings are slow. Not to knock against the art style. I think the art style is the strongest part of this game. The way the game looks is great. The way the game sounds is also pretty good, but there are some noises that get on my nerves. Like, have you ever heard of tinnitus? Those tinnitus noises in the background kind of drive me insane. I made a whole video about it. It was kind of dumb, but I mean, at the same time, kind of drives me insane. So there's that. And I wish I could, if I could remove all the tinnitus noises or have an option in the audio like a little checkbox under sound where I could remove tinnitus from the game. That'd be great. But right now, my only way right now is to turn down effects all the way down to 0%. And what that does is it removes some of the attack sounds and I think some footstep sounds. So it's not a great solution. So I have everything in here as well. Again, just switch to the Australia server if you do multiplayer stuff. Save yourself a lot of time. On release, this game was a crashing nightmare that was hard to play, honestly. It's gotten better, more stable, and the multiplayer has gotten stable to the point where you can usually play through. There's only sometimes I crash in multiplayer now, but I believe that's more due to my specific setup than anything else. For some reason, all AMD just is not friendly to this game. So there's that. Other than that, the game's fun. It's good enough for Souls-like. The gameplay is actually fairly good. I like I like how there's a dodge and a roll. The jump is kind of lacking in my opinion, but it's alright. If you didn't know this, you could just barely move forward, tap the sprint, and then jump. And you can do that really quickly and have a maximum jump for this game. So you can almost stand still and jump if you do it fast enough. That's one of the downsides of this game is that jump is kind of awkward. But so you can have a max range jump from basically standing still. The parts where you need to jump around in this game, it's not so bad. Other than that, the game it's fun enough once you can get the game running stably without crashing all the time. It's pretty good. I am a Souls game player. I like playing Souls games. That's why I haven't given up on this game because I wanted to see it through to the end. In my opinion, it was kind of short, believe it or not, and which is interesting to me because the game feels like it could be like the whole game could be just a tutorial before the game opens up, and like you can actually explore the world. Yeah, and the game world feels good. Feels pretty good. The shortcuts, since I'm always playing on New Game Plus Zero, feel kind of pointless. The way the levels are designed to be very intricate, lots of little shortcuts and backtracking. There are a few shortcuts that feel like meaningful, but for the most part, I ignore almost all of them now because it's just weird ways to get caught in PvP. So I leave them closed, and then that restricts the area we can PvP in. As far as multiplayer goes, it's been good. All my experiences have been fairly good until the game crashes, and then that frustrates me to no end. But for multiplayer, it's fine. It's been pretty seamless. Even when I VPN over to Australia, and it should be terrible, like 2 frames a second. So many other people are doing it right now anyway that I get matched up with someone I would have played with not in Australia. And so it's a pretty smooth and seamless experience. And as disruptive as someone may think it is for getting invaded, it's really not. Like, you can travel to where you die if you die, or get back to where you were in a level really quickly. And if you're a Souls veteran, you can you already know how to ignore most enemies. More than likely, develop a skill as like either a speedrunner or as eventually you realize you could just run past every enemy in the level. And I want to give them credit for that because there aren't any areas that I know of that are blocked off from you as you're playing through. There aren't places you can't just run past every enemy in the level. You can just bypass everything. Like that was supposed to be basically the equivalent of the Orlando archers, I'd imagine, is what they were going for there. I mean, honestly, you saw me do it. And the level design is great. I like some of the shortcuts. They feel kind of pointless because I have vestiges everywhere. But yeah, that's. I think I've said all the positive things I can say about this game. And the big negative is I keep crashing and I have to run it on low quality, even though I can run it on higher qualities just to make the game playable. Those are some of the biggest downsides for me. It was fun enough. The Umbral is just annoying. It's just too bad because I think it was a good idea. I just don't think it was implemented to be. I don't think it was implemented for fun. I think it was meant to be like a puzzle solving kind of thing, which is great in small doses. But when you have to travel most of the level in Umbral to get through areas, it's mostly an annoyance. I like the idea of getting a second life when you die, but I mean, usually when you die the first time, you're gonna die in the Umbral anyway, so it can be a crutch every now and then, but especially when you have no gear and no levels, you're more than likely gonna die in the Umbral again, so you'd think it'd be a big help, but it's really it's really not. And I think the power curve of this game, the scaling, it happens very abruptly and you spike very quickly. You power spike pretty hard after you start getting your weapons upgraded. And your stats barely matter until they do. But at that point, by the time your stats start factoring in and really mattering, you've already upgraded your weapon enough times, because you have to upgrade your weapons for some of your stats to even start factoring into damage. So for the most part, leveling up your health and endurance is kind of the way to go because you're not getting anything out of damage stats, which can be unfortunate. And the way the game's balanced is interesting because in all of the patching they've done, which is quite a bit throughout the game's life cycle so far, they've been patching the game fairly frequently, and a lot of it has been good quality of life updates. And then that one update that ripped everyone's boss weapons and put them back to +0 weapons, that sucked. But I mean, I went over to Australia and farmed up the co-op currency over and over again until I got enough slabs to remax my weapons, and then just moved on with my day. And even at soul level 2,586, I can still find co-op games. I still get invaded, so there's that. Um, yeah, the PvP invasions aren't really well balanced in my opinion, because I think the invader gets an extreme buff to their damage, while the host player, they get the advantage of, well, being a peer-to-peer connection, they get the advantage of hosting the game and it not lagging for them. And I don't know if that was intentional to design it that way or not. That's me taking a guess in the dark, but you don't deal anything more than like 50 damage per attack, even though you have uh, ridiculously strong weapons. Like, and I do mean I have ridiculously strong weapons. Like a sword that hits for 1261. Like, it really does hit that hard, but when you go up against somebody in PvP, it feels like you're just throwing a wet paper towel at them. And for me, at soul level 2,586, and for me, dealing with an invader is not too bad, because usually I can hit them with either these swords or the daggers and stun lock them, or people roll off the edge and die. Like, even the annoying, what do you call it? even this thing, the super powerful crossbow, those players who invade me don't usually kill me because I am so overleveled. And because it's so easy to hit a very high soul level in this game, for now, especially when you co-op, this game never felt like too big of a hurdle. It's kind of a letdown in that sense, because like some of the best parts of Dark Souls games is to overcome the difficulty of the game through skill. And right now, it doesn't feel like I'm very skillfully playing the game. It feels like there's no skill involved. I'm not trying to dodge things, or I don't need to. I'm not learning the movesets of all the enemies. I'm just kind of there. So yeah, but that's my thoughts on Lords of the Fallen. It's not the best Souls-like that there ever was. It's not the worst. It was fun. I've gotten almost every ending, and I think I'm just gonna put it down after this because Stronghold's up next. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.